Hurry up and put $1,000 in the envelope. Even a poor woman like you can afford that much. The ridiculous request of my husband Ross makes me feel dizzy. I accept the red envelope with my trembling hands. Of course, I don't have that kind of money. I don't have that much. Go to the ATM then. There's one next to the hotel. Go quickly. That's not what I mean. I just got a pay cut the other day, and $1,000 is far more than I can afford. I've already told him about it, but he draws closer and grabs me by the shoulders. I worked for a Chinese boss, and this is the wedding of his son. If they think I went cheap on the wedding gift, he'll pass me over for promotion. Then you'll be even poorer than you are now. If you can buy your future for $1,000, it's a small price to pay, right? The hands gripping my shoulders are getting stronger and stronger. Noticing that we are acting strangely, people start to gather around us. If we continue to attract attention, it will only get worse. Besides, he has a point. If I obey him now, it'd go all well. Okay, I'll go. Yes! His expression becomes overly happy, and I was released from his grip. He has always been like this. It reminds me of a few days ago. I'm going to bed. Hey, why don't you clean after yourself? I'm tired. Good night. He disappeared into the bedroom without looking back. I let out a sigh and staggered off to the kitchen. He didn't even soak the plate in the water again. I looked at the dried up sauce that had stuck to the plate in frustration and picked up the dish sponge. We had been married for 10 years. We met through a friend, and my first impression of him was, what a good-looking guy. He was tall and looked a little like an actor who appeared in the popular sitcom at that time. My friend often told me that he was very popular with ladies. He knew how to treat women and was much more sophisticated than men of his age. I thought he was an amazing guy who wasn't calculating, but just casual in his kind manners. At the same time, I thought that I would never be able to have someone like him. I was rather plain and wasn't a good conversationalist. So when he confessed his feelings for me, I thought it was a prank. After dating for a few years, we got married. Although the first year was fun, his true nature gradually became apparent. He had a kind of misogynistic idea of a wife and thought he owned me. He started ordering me around. He repeatedly said that it was disgraceful for a man to do housework, even though we both worked. I was the one who took care of the house. I contemplated leaving him many times, but I couldn't let go of the thought that such a handsome guy had chosen me. When I finished washing the dishes, I poured wine in a glass and returned to the living room. I stared at a calendar on which the wedding anniversary is circled in red. I told myself to wait on divorce until at least our wedding anniversary. I still had a slight hope for him to change on that day, even though I knew it was wishful thinking. I chugged half a glass of wine. On the day of the anniversary, I took the day off and Ross was getting ready for work. I was disappointed, realizing that I had set my expectations too high after all. Suddenly, he handed out a note to me. There was a name and address of a hotel written on it. Be there at 5 p.m. I took a half day off, so I'll head there directly from work. Is this? Dress nicely. Do you still have that gray dress you bought a while ago? Wear that. As soon as he finished, he breezed out of the house. I stood there in amazement. Then I finally came to my senses and exuberantly headed to my closet. He remembered. It's our first time for us to have dinner out on our anniversary. I put out the dress that had been neglected in the back of the closet and spun around in place. I knew the wonderful man was still inside of him. I was glad that I hadn't said anything stupid about divorce. There still was a lot of time, but I couldn't just be still and started to get ready. I put on the dress and took more time than usual to put on makeup. I even sprayed my favorite perfume on. I put on the earrings that Ross had bought for me a long time ago. After getting my hair done at the salon, I headed to the hotel. I looked at myself in the mirror and was satisfied with the reflection of what might be the most beautiful self I had seen since my wedding. When I arrived at the designated floor, I saw a swarm of people gathering there. Ross was in the middle of it, playing with his phone. When I ran up to him and tapped his arm, he silently put his phone away in his pocket. So many people here. Are we having dinner here? Dinner? It's our anniversary dinner, right? I was surprised when you suddenly told me. He seems to be confused, which made me anxious. You arranged dinner for our wedding anniversary, right? I never say that. I just invited you to my boss' son and my colleague's wedding. Just as I was about to go off at him, someone who looked like his boss came over to us. He immediately responded to the person with a freshly made-up smile. Although I was upset, I smiled, thinking that I could not ruin his reputation. He pretended to be a loving husband as if his previous attitude was a lie, and introduced me to the people around him. He laid out superficial praise about me that made me feel empty inside. When I was desperately trying to keep up, one of the people around us smiled at me. The gray-haired man said in a smooth voice as he was consoling me, "She seems like a really loving person. You must take good care of her." I almost cried hearing the stranger's kind words. There was no way he could have known what was going on, but I felt like he was on my side. Ross half-heartedly agreed with him. I kept putting on a smile, holding back my tears. After a while, the greetings were over, and Ross and I were left alone. He didn't even care to see how I was, but sighed deliberately to express his stress. "I'm tired of company politics. I guess women don't understand." The way he said it was so rude that I felt anger boiling up inside me. What's it got to do with being a woman? I work hard and earn my own money too. I played the perfect wife for his trivial pride. There was no reason for him to be sarcastic. Without caring about my feelings, he suddenly put out an envelope for me. I assumed that he wanted me to go to the reception desk to present it, but he was just grinning at me. It was the kind of smile that showed his true colors. "Hurry up and put $1,000 in the envelope. Even a poor woman like you can afford that much." His ridiculous request made me feel nauseous. I accepted the envelope with trembling hands. Of course, I didn't have that kind of money. My salary had recently been revised and reduced. The fresh memory of my boss apologizing to me popped into my head. "I don't have that kind of money." "Why don't you just go to the ATM? There is one next to the hotel. Go quickly." "That's not what I mean." He drew closer and grabbed me by my shoulders. "I work for a Chinese boss, and this is the wedding of his son. If they think I went cheap on the wedding gift, he'll pass me over for promotion. Then you'll be even poorer than you are now. If you can buy your future for $1,000, It's a small price to pay, right? The hands gripping my shoulders were getting stronger and stronger. Noticing that we are acting strangely, people start to gather in around us. If we continue to attract attention, it will only get worse. Besides, he has a point. If I obey him now, it'll all go well. Okay, I'll go. Yes. His expression became overly happy, and I was released from his grip. I was on the verge of tears, but turned my back on him to go to the ATM. I was filled with despair. I put the money into the envelope as I mourned the reduced balance. When I returned to the hotel with it, Ross and the bride were talking amiably. Whenever he made a joke, he quickly touched some part of his body. The gesture seemed rather intimate, or rather sexual, and it made me feel uncomfortable. When we walked away, I handed him the envelope, and he finally gave me a sincere smile. Thank you. I know I forced you a bit earlier, but thank you for helping out. I can always count on you. By the way, weren't you a bit too close to the bride? I'm sure the groom wouldn't be so happy if he saw that. He shrugged his shoulders dramatically. There's nothing between us. She's just a good friend. She used to be one of my assistants when she just joined the company. He spoke so eloquently that it made me even more skeptical. I thought it was improper to continue such a conversation at a fine occasion, so I didn't pursue the matter any further. I was depressed during the reception. The bride kept glancing over at Ross, who kept acting like he was a big shot. The ultimate stab in my heart was what he said during his speech. Mike, make sure you remember to celebrate your anniversary. Jess is a kind woman, but there are etiquettes even between husband and wife. That's when my heart broke, and I left the hotel as soon as the dinner finished. I assumed Ross was going to stay until the end of the party. I drank a cheap wine I bought at a store on the way home and cried. Let's get a divorce. I can't keep doing this with him. After that, I found a lawyer and prepared for divorce. Then, the lawyer suggested that I file a claim for alimony. I told him about the incident at the wedding, and he felt something was up. He told me to try and find conclusive evidence to go after Russ. So, in parallel with preparing for the procedure, I started an affair investigation. He was certainly an inconsiderate person. Although I thought he'd never gotten that far, I surreptitiously picked up his phone. He was in the shower. I estimated the time I have to be about 5 minutes maximum. I opened the messaging app and looked at it anxiously. The names displayed were almost all male, even if the occasional female name appeared. The chats were simple and businesslike. I was about to close the app, thinking he hadn't been ruined that much after all. Then, a notification came in. Your wife hasn't found out about us yet, right? It was a male name, but the message showed otherwise. I felt a shiver down my spine and carefully maneuvered the phone and avoided being double-ticked. Then I put it back in its original position. After waiting for him to go to bed that night, I looked at his phone again. Remembering the name of the man, I opened the chat. They were frequently communicating with each other. The content of the conversation was romantic and sometimes sexual. There was a photo of the woman whom I knew at a glance. It was the bride I had met at the wedding. She was supposedly his good friend. The photo was a close-up of her face, and I noticed the earrings that were the same ones I had. I had them on my ears for the wedding too. He bought the same earrings for his wife and mistress. How thoughtful of him. I could feel nothing at that point and just backed up the data on my computer. Then I sent the data to my lawyer right away. A few days later, I waited for Ross with a copy of the divorce papers and the blown-out printout of his girlfriend with the earrings. When he got up and saw the picture, he was taken aback. "What? That's..." "Good morning. Can you go through these before you leave? I don't have to explain this picture to you, do I?" "You snooped around on my phone? You're a criminal!" He ripped the picture into pieces, but it was a useless act. "I've saved all the message and the picture. You know, you're totally busted, right? I'm making sure you paid alimony." "Is this the result of using your peanut brain? Fine, I'm ready to fight." "I'm relieved to hear you say that. Let's see how you win from here." I showed him the amount of alimony and the list of the evidence of the affair I had gathered. The momentum he just had seemed to fade away. "What's wrong?" What the heck? I'll forgive you. I'll let go of the fact that you snooped around." "What are you talking about? I'll move out as soon as we file for divorce." "What do you think you're going?" "I feel sorry if you become homeless, so I'll let you stay." "Don't worry. I've already taken care of that." Realizing that I wasn't going to be talked out of it, he slumped his shoulders. "I can't pay this kind of money right now. Can you please not divorce me?" He looked so small. Maybe that's why my heart ached a little, even though I didn't need to feel sorry for him. I thought he really was remorseful. I questioned myself if it was right to cut off someone I had been for 10 years. Such thoughts crossed my mind, and the divorce filing was put on hold. It was next day the drama unfolded. "Is this Natalie?" "Ross collapsed in the office just now." "Oh my God!" I panicked and rushed to his office. As soon as I ran into the conference room I had been pointed to, I found Ross lying on the floor and his girlfriend next to him. When she saw me, she awkwardly left the room. Although I thought about going after her, I couldn't leave Ross lying there alone. Then the door opened. "Huh? Are you alone? Jess was supposed to be watching him. She's a good friend of Ross. Just got married the other day." The guy excused himself, saying that the ambulance had arrived and needed to escort the paramedic, and left. When I saw him off, I noticed a trash can. There was a torn of stockings shoved haphazardly in there. I wondered why there was such a thing there and picked it up. I remembered that Jess seems to be bare legs. "Natalie?" He opened his eyes, and when he saw my hand, he stood up suddenly. He tried to take the stockings away from me, so I reflexively backed away from him. "What's the matter with you all of a sudden?" "Give it to me!" "Why do you want the torn stockings so badly?" I looked closely at his suit, which was wrinkled in places. Then the dots was finally connected in my head. I rolled up the stockings and hid them behind my back. "Oh, now I got it. You're unfaithful to me at work." "I don't know what you're talking about." "She called the ambulance, didn't she?" "It was a man who called me. Poor guy was put in the middle of it." "I saw your girlfriend sitting next to you. She ran away as soon as she saw me." When I was talking, the paramedics and his colleagues came running into the room. They must have sensed something was amiss and looked at us silently. "It was your own fault that you collapsed. Aren't you ashamed to have caused so much trouble for so many people?" I explained the situation to the paramedics, and then I went to file the divorce right away. On that same day, I left my home and headed to my parents' house. Both of them gladly accepted me back. That night, I received numerous calls from Ross. He was so persistent that I reluctantly picked up the phone in the end. Hey! I filed the divorce papers today. Happy separation anniversary. You made a speech about cherishing the anniversary and never forgetting it. Oh, and the alimony will be paid in the 12th of every month. Then even you won't forget. I hung up on him and immediately blocked his number. A few months later, I'm finally relaxing after settling in a new place. It's been a long time since I lived alone, but it really feels good. After the collapsing incident, Ross and Jazz were heavily criticized by their colleagues and resigned voluntarily. Bad reputation has spread within the same industry, and they were struggling to find a new job. The two seem to have been driven into what Ross calls poverty. He's still making alimony payments, thought it could stop at any time. Even without the alimony, I'll be able to make a living, but I have no plan to withdraw it. I see it as a purification for him as well. I have a good job now, and I also have time for my hobbies. It's great for me to be able to resume hand-making goods. In addition to feeling more relaxed, I'm now able to earn a side income too. I was shocked when I realized how much time I had wasted on that man. I feel powered up and being more active than ever, trying to make up for the loss now. Oh no, it's late. I'm supposed to have a coffee with a friend today. The sun is shining warmly through the window as if to bless my new life.